Hey guys, how are we? Well, an interesting couple of days. So Sri Lanka absolutely in turmoil at the moment, with the presidential palace being invaded, another insurrection, and the Sri Lankan people absolutely going crazy. But the real question is, how on earth did this all come about? I'll try and do it in a very clear and succinct manner so it's very understandable to you. So what's happened is that about 3 years ago, when they had elections in Sri Lanka, the incoming government promised to cut a lot of the taxes, the income taxes, which significantly reduced the income of the government. Further to that, the government also adopted some sort of new green policy, which basically meant that they wanted to do all their farming organically. So they didn't use pesticides or fertilisers. That significantly reduced the amount of crops and productivity. And then on top of that, you had the triple whammy of COVID-19 and the lockdowns and restrictions and restricted movement. So that meant tourism, which was one of Sri Lanka's biggest imports or earners, was absolutely decimated. So that brings us to current day. So what happened? Well, in short, Sri Lanka ran out of cash, and they kept borrowing more and more money to the point where the ratings agencies reduce their credit score. It reduced their credit score to such an extent that they prevented them from accessing capital on the international capital market. And then Sri Lanka started to use their cash reserves. Can you believe that? That boat, unbelievable. That's a boat. So Sri Lanka started to use their foreign capital reserves, and they used to use those reserves. Every country uses those reserves to pay for, their account deficit. So if they import something from a US businessman, they pay them back in US dollars. They've got a reserve of US dollars. Well, they started using that money that they have on reserve to the point where they ran out of it, which means that they no longer can buy anything because nobody wants, Sri Lankan, whatever that, I think it might be rupee, I'm not sure. But anyway, nobody wants their currency. So, in effect, Sri Lanka is in a really bad situation now where they are technically insolvent. Obviously, they're insolvent. They have no way of actually trading out of this. And who wants to go and visit Sri Lanka when there's so much political and social upheaval? So absolutely, it's a dire situation. It'll take them generations to actually get out of this. But what does this actually say about other situations around the world? For example, in the Netherlands at the moment, the Netherlands is having massive riots with their farmers for the same thing. The woke liberal agenda wanted to outlaw fertilisers and pesticides in the Netherlands. So the farmers are absolutely up in arms. They're rioting. It's some of the most brutal rioting I have ever seen. I have even seen footage of the police firing guns at tractor drivers. The freeways are blocked off. The international borders are blocked off. Netherlands is absolutely in a bad state. And this is all part of the green agenda. You've got to wonder if there is some sort of larger mechanism or agenda going on here. And I'm not saying that there is, just saying that it's very interesting that this sort of response is happening at the moment, and it's only going to get worse. I did see other countries around the world where farmers and civilians have started to riot as well. I got word through from someone in Australia the other night who brought it to my attention. Their opinion is that the whole world about to descend into civil war. The situation, say, for example, in Australia or a developed economy is that they have far greater reserves. They have far better cash reserves and a far better way to manage the economy. It's not like Sri Lanka or smaller economies that don't have the resources and don't have the people with the skill set to be able to manage out of situations. In saying that, I did see Australia in floods yesterday in Sydney, I think it was, and I did see another guy who basically said that it's, you know, weather warfare. I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but I will point you to a company called Exile. I think the CEO is David Williams, if I'm not mistaken. I know the ABC did a hit piece on him a couple of years back saying the technology didn't work, but in saying that, look, if you look at the situation over there at the moment, there seems to be forming serious cloud off the northeast coast of Queensland and then filtering down into New South Wales and just dumping. So crazy times there at the moment. And you know, how many natural disasters can a country take before it starts to divulge into a third world country, you know? I did see food prices over there are absolutely skyrocketing. So very interesting what's happening in Australia at the moment. It's just going to go from bad to worse. I can see that happening. But I don't think it's going to divulge into the sort of state of affairs that you see in Sri Lanka, where you have people rioting and taking control of Parliament House and all that sort of stuff. And I would not condone violence, so under any circumstances. But very, very dangerous situation there in Sri Lanka. But other developed economies are going to divulge into very difficult circumstances before the end of this year, and I've done previous videos on that. So when you understand that a lot of these economies are in significant deficit and they are using a lot of their currency to pay back debt in US dollars, you can see that the US currency is strengthening at the moment. The euro is significantly devaluing, and I did see some projections of it going down to 90 US cents, which is just laughable when you consider that you know, 18 months ago it was $1.21 US, I think, at its height. So very, very dangerous situation at the moment in the world. And as Gerard Celente says, when everything else fails, they take you to war. I just hope that's not the case, but I suspect we're already in World War III. As I said in the previous video, if you're in a developing economy and you don't have the resources to look after yourself and maintain your position in location for an extended period of time, then time to think about your location where you can safely reside for an extended period of time, because I think this is going to get very, very bad. And you know, not wanting to be the bearer of bad news, but certainly would suggest that you should be thinking about things in those lines. The other thing is, if you're thinking of starting an online business, then give me a yell. So certainly one of those things that can help soften the blow of deep sort of recessions or depressions, not that a lot of people are going to be spending a huge amount of money during those times, but any amount of money that's coming in is better than nothing at all. And strongly suggest that you get a web presence, start building an online business or multiple online businesses, and get on with you know, living your best life today. So all right guys, I'm going to leave that there, and I will chat with you soon.